Welcome to the Dead by Daylight solo queue experience, the only place where teamwork is a loosely interpreted suggestion rather than a mechanic. Just loading into a match feels like you're gambling because you never really know what teammates you're gonna get. You could have that one teammate that doesn't take chases at all. Deja vu is their favorite perk and you'll always catch them on a generator. The downside is that you'll never catch them helping you. Hook stages don't really have a place in their vocabulary. I don't think they even know what that is. You could be on death hook, run right past their gen while you're literally about to die, and they'll be the ones running for their life like they're about to get married. If I'm being honest, I wouldn't even put my faith in their looping skills. These are the guys who go down in like 2 seconds. But you could get lucky and pull a teammate who isn't scared of the killer, but you might get one that's a little too fearless. These are typically the type of players you would think are directly working for the killer by finding a way to throw themselves at them every chance they get. The hook saboteurs or the flashlighters who can't seem to do their job well. Or you can even get the teammates who don't try at all. The ones who are AFK or just gave up and DC'd immediately because they don't like the killer you guys are facing.
Okay. She cannot take the hit from me, can she? I'm sorry, dudes, but how is everyone, and I mean everyone, so utterly willing to just give up, man? How do none of you have any willingness to play this game whatsoever, man?
There's even that subgroup of players who actively throw the game all for the sake of fun by running whatever meme build they've seen some YouTuber run. Look, the issue here isn't just skill, it's a fundamental lack of information, and a crossroads between what game you and the other 3 players want to have. In a survive with friends group, you can physically hear who is on a gen, who's being chased, and who wants to run a Seagull Steve build. Obviously, you can't guess any of these right off the bat if you're solo queuing. That's why Behavior graciously blessed us with the HUD. But for some reason, even though it's right there on everybody's screen, large enough for even the lopsided to see, you guys still can't see it, or refuse to acknowledge its presence. For Christ's sake, look at the fucking HUD. It's right there, tells you everything you may need to know, given just a little bit of human error. Like for example, if the killer brought leverage or coulrophobia, the icon tells me someone is restoring health, but it doesn't tell me they're suffering against those perks. The whole torture of solo queue is most evident in the killer's strategy. When there's no communication, the killer can easily exploit the most ruthless tactics with zero punishment. Something as mediocre as Spirit Fury becomes even stronger if 4 downs can be collected as opposed to if 1 Swift member got down from it and let the rest of the team know it's in play. Even take tunneling, for example. In a Swift, if a killer tunnels, one of the other 3 players are probably going to take a hit, assist with one of the many anti-tunnel perks, while the other 2 slam generators at maximum efficiency. In solo queue, one person is being tunneled, another is urban evading in a bush, and the third is looking for a chest in the fucking basement. All things are made worse if the killer decides they want to camp on top of that. Without a team to coordinate a synchronized save with borrowed time, babysitter, or even duty of care, you're essentially a lost cause. I guess the whole core issue is that the killer's pressure is doubled by your own lack of information. If you're solo queuing, you don't know what perks the killer has or what playstyle they're trying to do until you become the 3rd hook while the 1st gen hasn't even popped yet. In a perfect world, your 4 perk slots are for expression. You want to run a head-on meme build? Go for it. You want to be a healing specialist? Have fun. You want to have more discussions about game stuff? Like and subscribe. But in the lawless wasteland of solo queue, those perk slots aren't really yours to play with. You kind of have to run a subset of perks just to keep up with your teammates or to even survive because, like I mentioned before, your teammates are never guaranteed to help you. Kindred is the first perk of note as it's somewhat of a must-have in solo queue. Without it, your teammates exist in a state of quantum uncertainty where they can't make out where the others are and who's closest to the hook. Then there's Windows of Opportunity, a perk you don't entirely run because you're bad, but because you don't know which one of your teammates willingly gave the killer all the god pallets. When you're forced to run Kindred, Windows, and an exhaustion perk just to function, you only really have 1 perk slot for fun and experimentation. Keep all of that in mind while also being aware of the great enigma called MMR. The phrase alone sends shivers down my spine. Not in the good way either.
Hey yo, what the fuck?
Now, Behavior tells us there's this system behind the curtain that carefully curates who our teammates are and pairs us with players with equal skill. But if you've spent more than 10 minutes in solo queue, you know that equal skill is a very generous term. The MMR system is more like DBD's spaghetti code. It takes a P100 nurse main with 5,000 hours adds 3 survivors who just installed the game yesterday, and sprinkles in the guy who just won his last match by some random means as the oregano on top. The problem with MMR and solo queue is that it only measures escapes, not contribution. If you carry the team, loop the killer for 5 gens, and get tunneled because the killer hates your soul, the game will think you're absolute cheeks. Meanwhile, the teammate who hid in a locker their whole game and got a cheeky exit gate escape will get rewarded generously with MMR. This creates a hell loop where the skilled solo queue players are often dragged into lower tier lobbies where escape is kind of next to impossible. Playing alongside new players is a problem in itself, but what exacerbates this problem is that new players are barely taught anything. The tutorial, seemingly endless tooltips, and beginner challenges behaviors enrolled for fresh players doesn't even scratch the surface of what's to be expected in the game. Knowing the basics just isn't enough when there's over 40 killer powers to understand and over 120 perks to be aware of. You know it's bad when the community has to teach new players the real basics of the game. Now again, we have to give credit where credit is due. Behavior didn't just entirely leave us to sink like the Titanic. We have HUD icons now. We can see who's doing generators, who's healing, who's fiddling with totems, even the weirdos who are doing invocations. But again, that doesn't really account for the sharp decision making. The anti-face camp mechanic on paper was a godsend. If a killer stands too close, you get a free unhook. On paper, this should have been a success, and technically it was. We no longer see face camping, but I'd argue proxy camping is just a little stronger. You get to see the entire team at times and almost all the time ensure a hook state or a trade. Behavior, believe it or not, has done all they can do to combat the torture which is solo queue. Even adding in that palette density update called the quality of life update. Yeah, that was fun for killers. But as we all know, these are just band-aid solutions. It's like throwing a water balloon at a burning building. It's thoughtful, and it helps a little. None of these minor fixes actually fix the fundamental isolation which makes solo queue so punishing. Still, in the defense of behavior, at this point I don't think they can. Dead by Daylight was originally built around not having communication with your teammates. It was rugged, kind of frustrating, and what turned people off because at the time, Friday the 13th was around and it had proximity chat. It was something that the DBD community was actually asking for because it kind of made sense. You're in an asymmetrical horror game where teamwork is imperative to your escape. You need some kind of communication, but obviously having too much leans the odds in the survivor's favor. This may be a hot take, but I believe that proximity chat could have worked for DBD in the past. If they had built their game differently from that point, the structure of this game would have been very different. Of course, you can't stop people from partying up in a chat or a Discord call. But still, all of this was around when Friday the 13th was popular and that was rarely seen. There were 7 counselors, the map was huge, and just like DBD, teamwork was a must-have. Finding a pre-made party with 7 friends was an extremely rare thing to see. Who the hell had 6 friends just sitting around? This made proximity chat a necessity so that you could communicate with the entire team. As we've seen by now, Behavior knows how to make a game mode with 8 survivors, 2 killers, and they know how to make a map that's big enough to suit them all. But in the beginning they had their vision. With a couple of licenses, their sales got the best of them, and they couldn't really conform the game to any other shape. They also could have left the game as it was and kept the balancing steady, but people really wanted to play with their friends. Behavior had to make the choice that would better their game's lifespan, but would eventually break their game's balancing forever. It seems as if all the new killers and perks they bring into the game have survived with friends in mind, continuing to push away solo queuers. But anyway, that's the solo queue experience. If you liked the video, please like it and subscribe to see me yap about more game stuff. Please share your solo queue experience in the comments and give any advice if you find it necessary. Hopefully, I'll be talking to you later. Stay easy.